Hi, welcome. Introduction to Sociology students. It's a little loud this week. I'm watching my favorite cartoon in the background. Wait a minute, let me go shut it off. Maybe you could hear the theme song in the background. As I said, my favorite cartoon, at least this week, as we talk about postmodernity, our subject in sociology for the week. And maybe many of you recognize the theme song as the theme song to the Jetsons. Now, why do I like the Jetsons so much? I like it because I think that it helps us to sum up and also understand what postmodernity is. And I'm going to talk about it using your textbook and the 5 themes of postmodernity that Mashionis discusses in there. So, if you remember the cartoon The Jetsons, you will remember a few things about it. Life was wonderful for the Jetsons. Well, most of the time. They had a nice family, they had a flying car, they had a robot that cleaned the house, and a lot of other amenities of the postmodern age. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about the postmodern age? You probably know the modern age, which is the time after the Industrial Revolution. But there are a lot of sociologists out there, and also architects and artists and philosophers, who believe that we are in today something called the postmodern age. So modernity happened after the Industrial Revolution, and then after the kind of computer revolution, the post-industrial revolution, if you will, many people started to label the time period we're living in now as this post-modernity. So the 5 themes Mashionis talks about. The first one is that modernity failed us. How do you feel about that when you watch the Jetsons or when you think about it? Where's my flying car? Where's my house cleaning robot? Where's that little tablet or pill that I eat instead of dinner to make it easier so I don't have to prepare anything? We don't have any of those things. And I'm kind of summing it up in a lighthearted way. But the issues that postmodernity talks about are a little more serious than that flying car. They ask why things like poverty, the great social issues of the time, things like homelessness, things like racism, have not been solved. You know, they saw that as part of the promise of modernity. But we definitely haven't solved these issues yet. So that's where they get the idea that modernity has failed. The second theme that Mashionis discusses is that progress is fading. It's kind of demonstrated by my asking the class right now, think about the lives of your children. Some of you may have children, some of you may not. But will the lives of your children be better than your lives? What do you think? You know, for many decades, the consistent answer to that from people who lived in the United States was, yes, my children's lives will be better than mine. But in this postmodern age, we've seen a shift in polls and things like that. And when you ask that question to people now, including young people, we get a more pessimistic answer. They don't believe that life is getting better. And that also seems to be a hallmark of the postmodern age. A little bit of pessimism, I guess, or realism, pragmatism, depending on what you believe. Then another theme of modernity is that science doesn't have the answers. It hasn't lived up to our promises. We don't have a cure yet for HIV/AIDS or for malaria, for that matter. Indeed, some postmodernists contend that science has even made some situations worse. For example, our scientific achievements have contributed to things like climate change or pollution. So they see science as not fulfilling the things it promised us in the modern time. And we see that now in the postmodern time. Postmodernists also note that cultural debates are intensifying. This is kind of an easy one to find evidence for. Just look to Washington. Look at things like the lack of bipartisanship. Look at clashing movements, things like the Tea Party and the Occupy movement. And look at other, large-scale movements like the animal rights movement, the environmental movement. And postmodernists say, there's a lot of clashing, a lot of conflict going on. And then finally, our fifth theme is also that social institutions are changing. And this is really something that we've been talking about all term. We see it in social institutions from the family. And the family has changed greatly in the past 50 years. And we see much more family of affinity now, less nuclear family, more single-parent families, and different people have different interpretations and analyses of what this means. And indeed, you can see it in your own situation right here, that the social institution of education has changed. I'm talking to you virtually today. We do our discussions online and things like that. And once again, some of you will go away thinking that's a great thing in the postmodern age. Others of you maybe not so much. But I hope most of you have enjoyed our virtual exchange. So I'm going to leave it to you to decide what you think about those flying cars that the Jetsons promised us that we don't have in postmodernity. Maybe you think that we never needed them to begin with. Maybe you really want to know where they are and you're disappointed. And maybe you think that really our emphasis should be on other things in this age of postmodernity. I'll let you decide. I'll see you again. Have a great week.